Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I am Franchise Pearson, and welcome again to my channel. It is Wednesday the 18th, March 18th. Yeah. Wow, March. Think about it. We're 3 months in, right? 9:39 p.m. Praise God for whom all blessings flow. People, I have been studying off and on for weeks this Cuba dilemma. I remember when Trump announced that he was going to put the squeeze on them by cutting off that oil, because they got plenty of oil from Venezuela, and you know what happened to, well, their leader. He's in New York. This transformation, this squeeze. I mean, I am not claiming to be an expert. I read it like you read it. I've watched Cuba for a better part of 40-something years, read about the Bay of Pigs. I remember when Fidel Castro uttered the words New World Order. I actually have the document. I literally have the document. The year that I did the research on the New World Order. The first year I did the research, I brought it to my editor that Fidel Castro talked about the New World Order. Not that he was for it or against it. I'm just saying that he was talking about it. And now it's 2026. And I'm wondering, is Trump, quote unquote, putting the squeeze on Cuba outside of them having relations with Russia and Iran and China and countries / nations that America deems they should not relate with because those aren't our best relations? I've been watching this landscape and how it is shaped. I always think about the resources. I always think about business, like in Cuba, America has to give permission, even with the tourists that come there, what they can do, what they can't do, how long they can stay. And what's the best option for? If you can't have self-governance, what are the options? Is the government wicked, taking money off the top, and the people only getting just enough to get by? Why is Trump saying, okay, I mean, he's literally bragging. You might as well say he's bragging. Look, I can be the first to finally take it. I don't like his language. I don't like his attitude. I like reasonable approaches. But I like to hear from you guys, especially if you're from Cuba. You know a lot about it. You had business there, friends, family. Educate me on, is it time for a total change and gut it out so they can have a system of free enterprise, voting, similar to what America, not that ours is the best, but some type of system in place where the people can breathe that thing called freedom. I'm going to show you a number of videos, but the research I did tonight, like I said, it's been off and on for 3 months. I've been doing maybe a half hour every other day, just surfing the net, reading. America got to deal with Russia. They got ships over there. America got to deal with China. I mean, we just postponed our meeting with China in relation to Iran. Well, you know, China got relations. I got to be careful what I say here. China has relations with them. Anyway, let me just. My biggest concern is the people. No power grid, food, medicine. Is this how you squeeze them into you running it, America? Or maybe it's that the people are collateral damage because Trump wants to get rid of the people in charge. And unfortunately, on a temporary basis, over the last 9 months, the people have to suffer. I think that's it. Let's get into this thing.
At 11, the Trump administration is telling Cuba that Miguel Diaz-Canel must step down if they want negotiations to move forward. According to the New York Times, people familiar with the ongoing talks say the White House wants Diaz-Canel out, but that so far the Trump administration is not pushing for the Castro family to abandon power, which could mean the communist government would still be in place. Sources tell the Times the U.S. would lead the next steps up to the Cuban people. And at the same time tonight, President Trump is saying it would be an honor, quote, taking Cuba. This all comes as the regime announced it will now allow Cubans living here in South Florida and across the U.S. to own businesses and invest on the island. But Cubans here in South Florida are skeptical. CBS News Miami's Anna McAllister is your reporter live in Little Havana at Versailles Restaurant with reaction. Anna?
Lauren, local leaders say that Cuba cannot change economically until it changes politically. Tonight, the humanitarian crisis continues in Cuba, with thousands of residents in the dark following a nationwide blackout. Cuba hasn't received oil in about 3 months. The U.S. and Cuban leaders have been discussing the future of the island nation, with President Trump saying this at the White House on Monday.
I do believe I'll be having the honor of taking Cuba. That'd be good honor. It's a big honor.
Taking Cuba.
Taking Cuba in some form, yeah. Taking Cuba. I mean, whether I free it, take it, I think I can do anything I want with it. You want to know the truth? They're a very weakened nation.
President Trump's comments come as Cuban leaders announce Cubans in Miami and around the world can invest in businesses and property on the island.
La respuesta desde Cuba es sí.
Cuba's doors are open to do business with American companies, but there's only one problem. Right now, U.S. law does not allow this, but Cuba's doors are open. It would take for them to change their legislation to allow U.S. companies to freely invest in our country.
But
And really, to add more into it, President Trump earlier this week was talking about a, quote, friendly takeover of Cuba. For more on this, I want to bring in our next guest to help break it all down, what is happening right now in Cuba and also the U.S.-Cuba relations. Dr. Andy Gomez, a Cuba scholar, former director at the University of Miami. Great to have you on. And first off, Doctor, what did you make of President Trump's comments earlier this week?
I don't know what he means. I mean, he said the same thing about Venezuela, and Venezuela is being run by the Venezuelans, Delcy Rodriguez. I don't know what he means by a friendly takeover of Cuba. There's no one in Cuba that's going to hand over Raul Castro. I don't think that it's in the best interest of the United States at this moment to invade or attack Cuba. So I don't know what the president meant by that.
And Doctor, tell us what is going on with the electricity issues in Cuba and just how dire it is.
This is the worst problem that they have right now. The electrical system in Cuba was left in ill repairs after the Soviet Union fell apart. It's not a problem of not having oil. It's a problem that the system doesn't work anymore. And the engineers, the electrical experts that I know tell me that they need a new one. They need a new system for the country at a cost of $8 to $10 billion. So there's no way of repairing the current electrical system. It will continue to break to the point that it just won't work anymore.
Yeah, and that is definitely what we don't want to see.
Response again from Trump.
I do believe I'll be having the honor of taking Cuba.
President Trump has revealed that he expects to take Cuba in some form. In what has become one of the most contentious moments in the 67 years since Fidel Castro overthrew what had been a close U.S. ally, the threatening statements from Trump also come as Cuba and the United States open talks to improve their largely adverse relationship. But why exactly would Trump want to take Cuba? Here's what you need to know. After Trump recently floated a, quote, friendly takeover of the country, Cuban President Miguel Diaz-Canel confirmed on March 13th that his government was in talks with the U.S., which he described as being aimed at, quote, finding solutions through dialogue to the bilateral differences we have between the two nations. However, following the removal of Havana's socialist ally, Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro, from power, and the U.S. and Israel's joint attack on Iran, Trump has openly mused that Cuba could be next.
So we're talking to Cuba, but we're going to do Iran before Cuba.
After his January 3rd raid on Caracas, Trump cut off discounted Venezuelan oil shipments to Cuba and threatened to impose tariffs on any country that sold oil to the island. As a result, Cuba says it has not received an oil shipment in 3 months, and the country has imposed severe energy rationing, resulting in extended power outages. Much of its economy has ground to a halt, and on March 16th, Cuba's electric grid collapsed, leaving the country of 10 million people without power. According to several Cuba experts and Cuban-American lawmakers, the island's communist government has never been in a weaker state.
I mean,
Hits home now, don't it? Listen, just a recent report, the 16th.
The situation in Cuba right now is just unsustainable. The Trump administration has cut off the oil to Cuba. The government doesn't have gasoline. You have shortages at state food stores, and you have blackouts that are lasting hours and hours every day. There's garbage piling up in the streets.
So they're basically experiencing their worst economic crisis since the communist revolution 67 years ago. You've been covering the island for years. So how did we get here?
The key moment that things really take a turn is January 3rd. That's the day that Donald Trump ordered an attack on Venezuela, arresting Nicolas Maduro, and ended the oil shipments to Cuba. For over 25 years, Venezuela has been sending thousands and thousands of barrels of oil a day, at one point over 100,000 barrels a day, to Cuba to keep it afloat. On January 29th, Donald Trump put tariffs on the goods of any country that sent oil to Cuba. In early February, the airlines are notified that there's no more jet fuel on the island, and that the airlines, if they want to come to Cuba, are going to have to refuel somewhere else. Air Canada canceled its flights, Russia's canceling flights. They're sending jets that are empty to Cuba to get their people and to send them home. That's going to be devastating for Cuba's tourism industry. Most experts say it's nearly impossible to know how long they can last without oil coming into Cuba. But what is already a really bad crisis is expected to escalate to unprecedented proportions within a matter of weeks.
So Francine, where does this end?
U.S. administrations have been...
She's right. That's why I'm doing the video now. Today's the 18th. By the first week of April, bring them to their knees. That's an understatement. We're human beings. I'm thinking, my mind, earlier, the reason why I got quiet, I ran a video about a week ago showing Paula White and Billy Graham Jr., if that's the proper way to say it, those ministers, everybody laying hands on Trump. Where are they now? Can they at some point say, look, there is a better way to approach this if you want to take it, if you want to help the people? And I'm just putting it out there that that's the goal. Wink and a smile, but I've been watching the transition of the New World Order for 40 something years. And I can't help but think that's what this is. And when you got the superpowers involved, and you know who they are, sometimes it's not as easy as a nut to crack. And I want to know, have we stretched ourselves too thin? We're in Iran. We're sending troops there now. We got our carriers there. What, about 4 different ships? At least 3 that I know of. Probably 4, but I'm not so sure this is the right. Well, I know this is not the right approach. What I'm not sure about is that we can pull it off. Because if I'm a strategic superpower, I'm like, no, you know, I'm tired of you. See, at some point, a superpower gets to the point they get tired of you punking them out. That's all I'm saying. So I'm being careful with my wording, but I think you understand. So, you know, you got the people in Cuba going through a literal hell financially. It's lights out, medicine, food, gas, businesses. Come on, man. This is a Christian way to do things? Y'all say Trump is Christian? This don't look Christian to me. Just want to know what you think. All right. I don't like it. I don't like it. And I'm sure if you're Cuban, please, or you've been there, please, or you got relatives there, please, whatever your feeling is, just put in the comment section. I'm looking at the title here. The U.S. is crippling Cuba. And why now? I really believe the strategy is the new. Maduro was their Shikinic move to get to Cuba, right? You cut off thousands of barrels of oil and leave them helpless. You got them. You got them. You just sit and wait. So you can sit back in the White House and say, yeah, they're vulnerable. Really? Really? Trump ain't right, y'all. Trump ain't right. Trump ain't right. I don't care what y'all say. Trump ain't right. That's why I say he's a transitionalist. He's helping transition the world into a global system. And this quote a line from Malcolm X, although I don't believe he meant it this way, by any means possible. This is wicked. This is satanic. And again, I'm not taking up for anyone who is in charge. From the guy who is the professor, he said the military controls 65% of the military, which I'm sure is an offshoot of the political system. I'm not saying they got the best system in the world. But to crush it like this, America know how to do good riddance and help. America, superpowers know how to create relationships whereby, and businesses, American and international business, globalists, that's the word I'm looking for. They know how to get into countries and make them behave. It ain't like you going to China or going to a superpower. Cuba can be made to conform overnight. You understand what I'm saying? They can be made and still and be free and get their own people in there to manage it, or get the people who are managing it to change. Well, Pearson, maybe that's what Trump is doing. I'm not so sure. It's a wait and see. And until then, people are suffering. I don't like that. Please let me know how you feel. God bless.